Let's talk to God.
Father God, we come quietly into your presence carrying weights no one else can see, burdens folded carefully behind smiles, responsibilities hidden beneath routine, grief tucked into the corners of ordinary days. And tonight, you already know how heavy the unseen has become. You see the thoughts we silence, the fears we manage, the strength we borrow just to stand upright, and the silent exhaustion that settles in the bones when the world expects more than the soul can give. You are near to the places we never name, near to the memories that surface without warning, near to the pressure of being strong when we feel fragile, and near to the ache of carrying what was never meant to be carried alone. Your mercy moves like soft light through the rooms of our inner lives, touching the doubts, the unanswered questions, the long nights of endurance, and the quiet bravery it takes to keep going. You remind us that nothing carried in secret is hidden from you, that every breath is counted, every tear noticed, every sigh understood, and every burden weighed by hands strong enough to lift it. So if your heart is tired and your load feels invisible, come closer now and let your breathing slow as you sit with him here. Teach us to trust your nearness when relief feels delayed, to believe that rest is possible even before circumstances change, and to sense your steady presence holding us while the story is still unfolding. You stay with us, Lord, in the ordinary spaces where invisible burdens grow heavy, in the pauses between conversations, in the quiet moments after everyone else is asleep, in the places where responsibility presses without applause and faith is practiced without witnesses. You understand the weight of expectations that were never spoken, the promises we keep out of love even when they cost us deeply, the silent loyalty that drains strength slowly but faithfully. You know how the heart learns to compartmentalize pain just to function, how we carry concern for others while neglecting our own need for care, and how the soul can feel crowded yet profoundly alone. Still, your presence does not rush or demand explanations. It settles gently beside us and breathes peace into the tension we have learned to normalize. You remind us that endurance is not invisibility to you, that quiet faith is still faith, and that unseen obedience still moves heaven. You meet us not with pressure to perform, but with permission to be held, to soften, to admit the weariness we have rehearsed away. If you feel the ache of carrying more than you can name, allow your heart to lean into his closeness right now and stay there. Shape our inner lives with patience and tenderness. Help us recognize your voice beneath the noise of duty, and let us feel, even here, that we are not carrying these unseen weights alone. You walk with us, God of compassion, through corridors of effort where progress is measured in survival rather than victory, where invisible burdens show up as tension in the shoulders, as restless sleep, as smiles that arrive on time while hope lags behind. You notice the patience it takes to keep loving when appreciation is thin, the courage it takes to keep believing when answers delay, and the quiet discipline of choosing gentleness when irritation would be easier. You see how we negotiate with our own limits, promising ourselves just one more day of strength, just one more stretch of endurance, while wondering how long the inner reserves can last. Yet you do not measure us by output or stamina. You meet us in being, reminding us that worth is not earned by carrying more, but revealed by being known. Your grace threads itself through our routines, transforming repetition into prayer and perseverance into sacred ground, even when it feels unnoticed. You steady us when our thoughts spiral towards self-blame, when we confuse fatigue with failure, and when we fear that asking for help might undo the image we've worked so hard to maintain. If you are holding something you feel you must manage alone, let it loosen in your hands for a moment and trust his nearness here. Teach us to recognize rest as obedience, to honor our limits without shame, and to feel your quiet strength flowing beneath the weight we still carry forward. You remain attentive, Lord, to the inner landscapes where invisible burdens take root, where the mind replays conversations long after they end, where the heart rehearses outcomes that may never come, and where worry disguises itself as responsibility. You see how we brace ourselves before the day even begins, how we armor our emotions just to stay functional, and how the constant vigilance slowly erodes joy. You know the cost of always being the one others lean on, the fatigue of carrying emotional weight without language, and the quiet grief of feeling replaceable even while being essential. Still, you do not ask us to explain ourselves perfectly or to justify our exhaustion. You simply remain, offering steadiness instead of solutions and presence instead of pressure. Your faithfulness interrupts the cycle of overthinking, reminding us that tomorrow does not need to be solved tonight, and that trust can exist even when clarity does not. You whisper calm into places shaped by fear, loosening the grip of control we mistake for safety and teaching the soul to exhale again. If your thoughts feel loud and unrelenting, pause here and allow them to settle as you rest in His awareness. Train our hearts to release what we cannot manage, to recognize your care beneath our concerns, and to move forward anchored not in certainty but in your quiet, sustaining peace. You hold us, gentle God, in seasons where invisible burdens mature into habits of self-neglect, where caring for everyone else becomes normal while tending our own hearts feels indulgent, and where strength is praised so often that weakness feels like betrayal. You see the internal negotiations we make to keep functioning, the way we postpone rest for later days that never quite arrive, and the silent guilt that surfaces whenever we consider choosing ourselves. You know how responsibility can blur into identity, how being needed can quietly replace being known, and how the soul can grow tired of being dependable. Yet you meet us not as a taskmaster but as refuge, reminding us that love does not require depletion, and that faith does not demand self-erasure. Your compassion reshapes our understanding of devotion, teaching us that boundaries can be holy, and that listening to our limits honors the life you gave. You stay close when we feel stretched thin by obligations we cannot easily release, when saying no feels like failure, and when rest feels undeserved. You offer gentleness where we have learned only endurance, and patience where we have trained ourselves to hurry. If you sense a quiet longing to be cared for instead of always caring, let that desire surface here without apology. Recalibrate our hearts toward balance. Show us how to receive as freely as we give, and let your sustaining presence renew us as we continue this journey forward. You stay present, faithful God, in the moments when invisible burdens feel heavier because they have lasted so long, when endurance turns into numbness and hope feels like something remembered rather than felt. You see how time stretches pain, how unanswered prayers can quietly reshape expectations, and how the heart learns to lower its voice to avoid disappointment. You notice the courage it takes to keep showing up when motivation fades, the discipline of faith practiced without emotional reward, and the quiet loyalty of souls who refuse to quit, even while feeling unseen. You are not threatened by our questions or unsettled by our weariness. You remain steady when our confidence wavers, and patient when our trust grows thin. Your presence anchors us when the days blur together, when progress feels invisible, and when the promise of relief feels distant but still faintly desired. You remind us that waiting is not wasted time, that perseverance leaves marks we cannot yet see, and that even silent seasons are held within your care. You breathe meaning into stretches that feel empty and dignity into faith that feels tired. If you feel worn down by how long you have been carrying this, let your soul rest for a moment in His patience right here. Strengthen our inner resolve without hardening our hearts, renew our sense of purpose without pressure, and help us keep walking gently forward, trusting that you are already at work beneath the weight we still bear. You remain close, compassionate Father, when invisible burdens shift from sharp pain into dull, constant pressure, when we almost forget what lightness felt like and learn to move carefully around the weight instead of questioning it. You see how adaptation can masquerade as healing, how survival skills become permanent postures, and how the heart learns to carry quietly so life can keep moving. You understand the fatigue that comes not from crisis but from constancy, from being steady for so long that even rest feels unfamiliar. You watch as we minimize our own needs because others depend on us, as we spiritualize endurance to avoid confronting exhaustion, and as we tell ourselves this is simply how life is now. Still, you gently interrupt our assumptions, reminding us that burden does not define identity and that heaviness is not a lifelong sentence. Your presence introduces softness where we have grown rigid, curiosity where we have accepted limitation, and hope where expectation quietly dimmed. You offer renewal not through dramatic change but through faithful companionship that slowly restores feeling and breath. If you have grown accustomed to carrying this weight as normal, let yourself imagine a different way of being held right now. Awaken our hearts to the possibility of lightness again. Teach us to recognize your care even in small shifts, and let your steady love begin loosening what we thought could never change. You attend to us, Lord of quiet restoration, in the inner spaces where invisible burdens begin to affect how we see ourselves, where patience thins, joy feels distant, and the mirror reflects someone who looks capable but feels quietly overwhelmed. You see how carrying too much for too long reshapes our self-talk, turning compassion inward into criticism and turning resilience into self-demand. You know how we start measuring our worth by how much we endure, how rarely we ask, and how well we hide what hurts, believing this restraint is maturity. Yet you speak a gentler truth over us, reminding us that being human is not a flaw and needing care is not a failure of faith. Your kindness softens the edges of our inner dialogue, inviting us to treat our own hearts with the patience we offer others. You reframe strength as honesty, courage as vulnerability, and faith as trust that does not require constant proving. You linger with us when shame tries to convince us we should be further along, stronger by now, or less affected than we are. You counter those lies with steady presence that restores dignity before circumstances change. If you feel judged by your own inner voice, allow His compassion to interrupt it here and now. Reshape how we see ourselves through your eyes. Teach us to speak life where we learned pressure, and let your affirming love steady us as we continue carrying what still remains. You surround us, patient God, in moments when invisible burdens begin to color how we see the world. When joy feels muted, trust feels cautious, and even good news arrives carrying a shadow of what might go wrong. You notice how the heart learns to brace itself against disappointment, how hope becomes measured to avoid pain, and how enthusiasm is restrained so it won't cost too much later. You see how vigilance replaces wonder, how gratitude is still present but quieter, and how the soul keeps watch even in safe places. Yet you do not shame us for protecting ourselves. You understand the wisdom that pain teaches and the tenderness it leaves behind. Your presence gently reintroduces safety, reminding us that not every moment requires defense, and not every blessing must be anticipated with fear. You invite the weary heart back into trust at its own pace, never forcing openness but patiently waiting for readiness. You help us relearn delight without naivety and hope without denial, guiding us toward balance where wisdom and joy can coexist. You stay with us as we test small moments of openness, celebrating every quiet step toward lightness. If you feel guarded even in good seasons, let your heart open just a little here and sense His calm around you. Restore our ability to receive goodness without suspicion. Soften the reflex to brace for loss, and help us walk forward with a cautious but genuine hope held safely in your care. You remain steady, gracious God, when invisible burdens begin to seep into our relationships, when we choose silence to avoid being a weight, when we edit our honesty so others won't worry, and when connection feels risky because we are already stretched thin. You see how we offer listening while withholding our own stories, how we become reliable shelters for others while forgetting that we too need refuge. You understand the loneliness that can exist even among kind people, the fatigue of being present without being fully seen, and the ache of wanting to be known without having to explain everything. Still, you draw near without asking us to perform clarity, meeting us in the in-between of words we cannot find and feelings we cannot organize. Your presence reminds us that intimacy does not require perfection and that being held does not depend on having the right language. You ease the pressure to manage how we are perceived, loosening the fear that honesty will cost us belonging. You teach us that sharing can be gentle, gradual, and safe, shaped by wisdom rather than urgency. If you long to be understood without overexposing your wounds, rest here and allow His knowing gaze to be enough for this moment. Guide us toward connections that can carry truth tenderly. Teach us when to speak and when to simply be, and let your faithful companionship assure us that we are never truly alone as we continue forward. You stay attentive, loving Father, when invisible burdens begin to shape our prayers, when words feel repetitive, when silence feels safer than asking again, and when faith quietly wonders if it has been overlooked. You see how hope can become careful, how we pray with disclaimers to guard our hearts, and how expectation is softened to avoid disappointment. You understand the tension of believing deeply while fearing to hope too boldly, the ache of trusting you while still carrying unanswered weight. Yet you never grow tired of our returning, never dismiss our quiet prayers, and never confuse our restraint with lack of faith. Your patience holds space for prayers spoken with confidence and those whispered with uncertainty, honoring both as sacred. You remind us that prayer is not performance but presence, not persuasion but relationship, not volume but sincerity. You remain close even when our prayers feel small, fractured, or unfinished, listening beneath the words to the longing that drives them. You assure us that silence does not mean distance, and waiting does not mean refusal. If your prayers feel thin or hesitant right now, stay here and let His listening presence meet you as you are. Renew our courage to speak honestly with you, free us from fear of disappointment, and help us trust that every prayer offered from a tired heart is still received with deep affection and care. You watch over us, faithful God, when invisible burdens begin to influence our decisions, when caution guides our steps, when we choose safety over desire, and when the future is approached with careful calculations shaped by past strain. You see how we hesitate before committing, how we delay joy until conditions feel secure, and how the weight we carry quietly edits our dreams. You understand the wisdom born from experience and the fear born from fatigue, and you hold both with tenderness. You know how disappointment can teach restraint, how responsibility can narrow imagination, and how survival can quietly replace expectation. Still, you invite our hearts to remain alive even while being careful, reminding us that hope does not have to be reckless to be real. Your presence steadies us as we navigate choices shaped by weariness, offering guidance that is patient rather than rushed, gentle rather than demanding. You walk with us through decisions large and small, honoring our need for caution while softly encouraging trust to breathe again. You show us that it is possible to move forward without carrying every past burden into tomorrow. If you feel uncertain about what lies ahead and afraid of choosing wrong, pause here and let His wisdom hold you for a moment. Align our choices with your peace rather than our fear. Teach us to discern without anxiety, and help us step forward gradually, trusting that you walk beside us into whatever comes next. You remain near, merciful Lord, when invisible burdens settle into the body itself, when tension lingers in muscles, when breath shortens without warning, and when rest feels shallow even after sleep. You see how emotional weight translates into physical fatigue, how the nervous system stays alert long after danger has passed, and how the body remembers what the mind tries to move beyond. You understand the quiet frustration of feeling tired without a clear reason, the confusion of strength that does not return on command, and the vulnerability of realizing we are more affected than we wanted to admit. Still, you do not rush our healing or scold our limits. You honor the wisdom of the body and the truth it carries. Your presence brings permission to slow down, to listen, to notice what aches without judgment or panic. You breathe calm into places that have been braced too long, inviting the body to soften its guard one small layer at a time. You remind us that rest is not escape but restoration, and that care is not indulgence but wisdom. If your body feels heavy or tense right now, allow it to settle as you rest in His gentle awareness. Teach us to treat our bodies with the same compassion we offer our spirits. Guide us toward rhythms that heal rather than drain, and let your peace move through us, easing what words alone cannot reach. You stay with us, restoring God, when invisible burdens begin to lift just enough for us to notice the contrast, when moments of lightness feel unfamiliar, and when relief brings both gratitude and uncertainty about how long it will last. You see how we test peace cautiously, how we enjoy calm with one eye open, and how the memory of heaviness keeps us from fully settling into rest. You understand the strange vulnerability of improvement, the fear of trusting relief, and the quiet question of whether we are allowed to feel better yet. Still, you invite us to receive each gentle moment without demanding guarantees, teaching us that peace can be real even if it is not permanent. Your presence reframes healing as a process rather than a finish line, allowing progress to unfold without pressure to declare victory. You walk with us through these in-between spaces where hope flickers but hesitates, honoring both gratitude and caution as honest responses. You remind us that enjoying relief does not deny past pain, and that savoring lightness does not invite loss. You steady us as we learn how to live without constant weight, even if only for brief stretches. If you feel unsure how to rest in this lighter moment, let your heart remain here and trust his nearness. Teach us to welcome peace without fear, to accept goodness without bracing for its end, and to let your faithful presence hold us as we continue learning how to breathe freely again. You remain faithful, loving Father, when invisible burdens loosen their grip but leave traces behind, when the heart remembers heaviness even as it learns new rhythms, and when healing feels uneven rather than complete. You see how we move forward carrying wisdom shaped by pain, how sensitivity lingers, and how certain sounds, seasons, or moments still stir what we thought had passed. You understand that recovery is rarely linear, that strength returns in layers, and that tenderness can coexist with resilience without canceling either. You do not withdraw when old feelings resurface, nor do you measure progress by speed or consistency. You stay present through every return and retreat. Your grace meets us in days of clarity and days of confusion, holding us steady when we wonder if we are regressing or simply becoming more aware. You teach us that remembrance does not mean failure, that scars can exist without reopening wounds, and that gentleness toward ourselves is part of wholeness. You accompany us as we learn to trust our capacity again, to engage without overextending, and to rest without guilt. You celebrate quiet growth that no one else can see. If you feel discouraged by how sensitive you still are, stay here and let his patience steady you. Help us honor the pace of our healing. Free us from comparing our journey to others, and let your constant presence reassure us that nothing fragile in us is a disappointment to you. You stay close, unshaken God, when invisible burdens teach us compassion we never asked for, when pain refines our awareness, and when suffering quietly expands our ability to notice others who are also carrying unseen weight. You see how hardship softens us, how endurance deepens empathy, and how our wounds become windows through which we recognize familiar ache in unfamiliar faces. You understand the cost of this awareness, how it can feel like an added burden to feel so deeply, to care so readily, and to be moved by what others overlook. Still, you do not waste this sensitivity. You honor it as sacred soil where kindness grows without noise and love learns to move without demand. Your presence steadies us when compassion feels heavy, reminding us that we are not responsible for carrying everyone else's pain. You teach us to care without absorbing, to respond without being consumed, and to love without losing ourselves. You show us that empathy guided by you becomes strength rather than depletion. You invite us to offer presence instead of solutions and prayer instead of pressure. If you feel deeply affected by the pain around you, pause here and let his care surround your own heart first. Teach us to steward compassion wisely, to serve from fullness rather than exhaustion, and to let your love flow through us without draining what you are still restoring within. You remain with us, steady God, as invisible burdens begin to reshape our sense of meaning. When we look back on what we've carried and wonder how it changed us, when questions about purpose surface quietly beneath gratitude for survival, you see how hardship rearranges priorities, how endurance refines values, and how the heart searches for coherence between pain and faith. You understand the subtle grief for who we might have been without the weight, alongside the quiet pride of knowing we endured what once felt impossible. You do not rush us toward conclusions or force narratives of triumph. You allow reflection to unfold honestly, honoring complexity rather than simplifying it. Your presence reassures us that meaning is not manufactured, but discovered slowly, often long after the hardest moments pass. You walk with us as we integrate what we have learned, discerning what to carry forward and what to gently release. You help us see that growth does not erase loss and that wisdom does not invalidate longing. You invite us to hold our story with compassion rather than judgment, trusting that you are still shaping it. If you are searching for understanding in what you've lived through, rest here and allow his patience to meet your questions. Guide us toward meaning without forcing answers, help us honor our journey without glorifying pain, and keep our hearts open as you continue to write what is not yet finished. You remain present, faithful Lord, as invisible burdens teach us humility, when we realize how easily strength can fade and how deeply we depend on grace we once took for granted. You see how suffering dismantles illusions of control, how it strips away certainty, and how it leaves us more honest about our limits and our need. You understand the quiet surrender that happens when striving no longer works, when acceptance replaces resistance, And when the soul learns to rest, not because everything is resolved, but because it can no longer carry alone, you do not shame this surrender. You bless it, meeting us in the simplicity of trust that does not pretend to have answers. Your presence becomes enough when explanations fall short, when theology quiets, and when faith narrows into a single breath of reliance. You teach us that humility is not weakness, but openness. Not collapse, but alignment with truth. You steady us when we fear that letting go means losing ourselves, showing us instead that release creates space for you to hold what we cannot. You invite us into a gentler posture of living, one shaped by dependence rather than pressure. If you feel tired of trying to be strong, let yourself lean into His strength right here and rest for a moment. Anchor our hearts in trust rather than control. Help us walk forward with open hands, and prepare us quietly for what you will still complete in us beyond this moment. You stay with us at the quiet edge of this prayer, gracious God, where invisible burdens are finally acknowledged without being rushed away, where the heart no longer has to prove its strength, and where simply being held feels like enough for this moment. You gather every unseen weight we named, and every one we could not find words for, holding them with a tenderness that does not minimize their cost or exaggerate their power. You remind us that we are not defined by what we carry but by who carries us, that our stories are still unfolding, and that your presence has been steady through every chapter, even the ones we survived rather than understood. You offer peace that does not demand explanations, rest that does not require permission, and hope that does not pressure us to feel differently than we do right now. You remain when prayers quiet, when effort fades, and when trust is as simple as staying. You seal this moment, not with urgency, but with assurance, not with answers, but with nearness. If you are ready, allow yourself to rest fully in His care now and receive what you do not need to earn. May His peace settle gently over your mind. May His comfort wrap softly around your heart. May His strength carry you without strain. And may you go forward held, renewed, and deeply known, today and always, in His quiet and faithful love.
Breathe for a moment. God is here. He wants to hear you. If this touched your heart, subscribe for more.